Coming off of Hurricane, along with all the time I've spent recently engaging with METALITE as a newer artist to my library in consultation of 11 tracks thus far, 12 counting this one, I am understandably elated at the idea of new music. And ever since this track was announced a couple days ago, well, the track debuted last night, the video debuted this morning, I have been pining away to hear Take My Hand, especially to engage in a very timely fashion, finally, with many of you other METALITE fans as well of this particular group. I'm assuming there'll be some mixed dynamics in who's approaching this video. Perhaps for some of you, you're longtime METALITE fans, and you've been followers of them for, ever since they started, really, maybe, or some years down the line. 2017, I think, is when they originated. Might be slightly off, but no, I don't think I am. That's when at least the first album was published. So some of you, I would imagine, are coming at this from a years long journey and familiarity. I myself, I'm a bit younger in my days, having enjoyed their talents for probably about 3 to 4 months, somewhere within that time range. But it's been a wonderful journey thus far, not only in consulting a never talented music group as I fulfill my aspiration that's been lingering for many years and bringing music and coverage into a more dominant role in this channel, aside from other artistic ventures I cover on a more routine basis, or at least I have since I started. Music for me, very much as I've said many times, is a first passion. And over 2023, this is going to evolve quite well. And it's been an honor, in which case, to spotlight groups such as METALITE as first introductions. Not only as a big metalhead, of course that appeals to me immediately, but I said many times, the European landscape, for those of you who perhaps this is going to be a first introduction to METALITE, think Swedish electronic pop metal with some power metal riffs and brilliant, powerful vocals on behalf of Erica Olsen, their front lady. I've said many times, the European metal landscape is a goldmine of beauty, and METALITE is no exception. I knew they would be, going into my first consultation with them, as I've also given this story as well. For those of you, again, I'm assuming some of you are approaching us on first introduction, so I'm laying the groundwork for you. Go back and listen if you haven't to Mortemia's, in fact, I covered it on this channel, collaboration of Erica Olsen through Lost Horizons. That is a treasure of a song. You will thank me. That's what said it immediately, was, a first sensational experience of Erica Olsen listening to her talents. I'm like, I gotta hear more of this woman. And then I came across the METALITE attribution, and I said, well, one day, in fact, I did something I don't often do, and because of that song, I purchased all their albums outright. So I had everything ready to go when I went into covering that first song. I had everything lined up on my phone, at least it would have been currently released. And it's been, every track has just wowed me. They're very impressive. Again, the electronic metal talents, and that's been a common thing among Swedish groups. I also said, for example, other recommendations, Dead by April, Fall of a Cypher, Anima Veil. METALITE's kind of along those lines. They're all Swedish talents, and I feel that METALITE fits into that quite well, especially in engagement for somebody like me who isn't necessarily the biggest fan of electronic music. I've warmed up to it, largely in what I've consulted on this channel. It's been very interesting to see my admiration of that field and subgenre of metal grow. And I'm sure Take My Hand will be no exception. So I've certainly laid out, a good foundation for those of you who perhaps, again, are approaching this on a fresh perspective, like, who's this METALITE group? I've given you enough, I'm sure, to respect them going in, or at least have a good impression, and I hope you do. That's been my experience thus far 11 times. Let's go for a 12th. I'm assuming it will be no different. Take My Hand. New song debuted today. As I said, we're going to consult the song as well as the video. I'm going to have that pulled up. And if you're not familiar with the way I format my coverage normally on this channel regarding music, I try and accommodate viewer taste to the best extent that I can. And in the past, I've had, and I've done this many times, I'm sure I'll do it in the future as well, I've had to manually provide the lyrics. I like to give a full perspective if I can. And for your ease, so you don't have to pull up a separate tab or something, I try and provide the narrative if you wish to read along with the piece on the screen. I don't have to in this case. This has been occasional with METALITE. They provided a lyric video, so they saved me some time getting this up faster. I'm sure you METALITE fans will appreciate that now that I'm caught up, much more than I've been in the past. But I'm looking at this with you on the day that it released officially. It's nice to be caught up, at least on something. I'm always so behind. Anywho, METALITE, Take My Hand. Here we go. Nice interlude. Wonderful feed. Oh, I like that subtle riff. It's very peaceful segueing into the piece. Nice engagement. There we go, there's some faster riffs, pump it up a bit. I like that. Although I like this grander presentation with the slower pacing to it. It's nice. It's a nice hybrid between ballad and more of the power metal side. I was more emboldened, at least I'd say, in the riff intensity. That's nice. I don't think I've ever heard Erica sing at least that softer tonality. That was nice. That range is trademark. Beautiful. Great structure to this piece. I'm really enjoying it. Another winner. Ah, there's the key change. That's familiar with them. They do that a lot if you're not familiar. This video is extremely approachable. I feel just embraced by it. I love hearing Erica. She's an amazing talent. Wonderful. Great drop. Like I said earlier, with the Mortemia attribution, there were two elements with Erica that brought me in: the intensity of the vocals and the vocal range in terms of octaves. She can go around quite a bit. This song, it speaks to that on both occasions. That ending is just, it's so perfect, and they always do it. I love hearing it. It's a routine expectation that is always fulfilled with them. There's that lingering intensity that just goes all in towards the end, so it feels like this satisfactory conclusion. Where was it in the song, though, that I think it was on the second chorus, or right before it. Yes, this wind of the sky forever will blow, just that line. I don't think I've heard her sing at a ballad level as much. I mean, yes, they kind of play around with her songs generally, but not that, I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's much more breeze-like. Very subtle. It's not, it doesn't strike me as much of an ardent emphasis in comparison to what she's more so known for, or at least what I've come to understand of her talents, and when engaging with their music, what I've come to expect. I did find it a bit subversive. It's nice. It's quite beautiful, in fact. It was a real surprise to me. I mean, it was something very minor, I know, and it only went for just one line, but you know, I like being able to spotlight artists, especially when it comes to new music releases, and suddenly there's this fresh element thrown in that's not as familiarized to me. And METALITE, like I said, they have a formula they go with, at least in many of the songs I've consulted on this channel, with, you know, an established thorough power rock sound and with the electronic integration, and then it'll go into a last measure key change, which worked beautifully here. Again, like I said, blended with the vocals on Erica Olsen's part, it was just perfect, in my opinion. Wonderful tracking, though. I love the introduction. Again, softer balance with the riffs coming in a bit later. The intensity grows over time. It feels like a nice segue, especially since, you know, the metal landscape, I understand this in terms of audience perspective, is quite, yes, I understand maybe comparison to other genres, it is a bit limited, and I like being in a bit of a niche space, and I've met others as you, with alongside the coverage I've covered, or the coverage I provided on this channel. Being able to have a collaborative experience, especially when my personal surroundings of people that I know do not reflect in any way or gel with my taste, seemingly. It's been great to meet other metal fans. I'm like, I'm not the only one out there in the world. But But even in the metal space, some people prefer softer energies, others prefer a bit harder and more aggressive tones. And I feel that this is a good blend, especially on the establishment. I think it's a nice way to approach people who perhaps are fans of a much softer presence, but then can welcome, a harsher intensity. It's an experience. And, I did say last time when I covered Hurricane that I did miss the visualizer component, that I was able to sneak in that little promo they had. I mean, it was nice. I'm like, if I'm going to give you something. But still, there's a fun aspect in enjoying METALITE on a visual note, because you sense this with the band's performances. You can resonate with the devotion. And I feel that with Erica Olson every time I've watched her sing, and the band generally, play instruments and stuff like that, it feels the same way. I love that feeling of connecting with the artists. Not just in being like, oh, this is a great song, I enjoyed hearing it, easy repeat listen, but being able to feel like I'm part of the experience. Like, sort of like I'm in a live showing, though I've never been to Europe. But, I'm listening to this from the comfort of my basement. But it kind of feels like a nice compromise. So watching Erica sing here, again, it was just beautiful to watch. I'm like, it's the same feeling I had with Mortimia. It appears very similar, in fact, to be honest with you, if you've not consulted that track, at least on the display, it's really similar to that. But just watching, like, the neck tilt back, her mouth open, in terms of when you're also hearing as well a note, just especially on that last measure, just belted out to its maximum reach. It's a very fulfilling experience. I really enjoy this group so much. I do generally metal groups in Europe, broadly speaking. And METALITE, like I said, no exception. I like the narrative of this piece as well. I mean, it's a bit subtle and very story-like. I'm not really sure what the main drive was here in terms of lyrical inspiration. I haven't read into that if it's been provided, but I like this idea, at least in storytelling, of what the message communicates. Sort of maybe a review and reflection of the world as it is, I guess, whether that be perhaps in a fictional sense or realistic. I mean, art, especially in the music space, is inspired by real-world tribulations all the time. Tribulations, trial, maybe tribulation is a bit harsh, at least the word to use. Probably a better synonym I'm not thinking of at the moment. Like, the day's getting darker. Where did she say? I think it's in the chorus section. Take my hand, I'll take you to the promised wonderland where the river meets the clear blue sea. It's beautiful. It's a very peaceful, serene song. I mean, I don't necessarily think I'm not sure if this is the image they were going for, but I'm like, it's kind of almost heaven-like, of like you're looking at the world around you and you're transported with METALITE somewhere else. Perhaps I fall back on my my Christian faith, and I'm like, oh, it's almost like, that paradise journey of let's go to heaven. It just kind of feels that way. Or at least emotionally, you're like, yes, take me somewhere else. It's so serene and nice. The promised wonderland. I like the way it's phrased. It's fun. For eternity, my friend, just you and I. It's beautiful. I like the connection. Like I said, this is a song that I feel like I'm sitting there with the group. Again, I like that feeling of bond with a song, whether it be just in the music listens itself or feeling like I'm connecting with the band. It's something that sits with me often in terms of many music I've consulted, but this song feels really special. It truly does. I like the connection point it makes with me, and the piece is very vibrant in its artistic vision. And I'm hoping the same will be said among you new listeners. I really hope that is the case. Like I said, I've come to enjoy METALITE a lot over the past couple of months, and I really hope that sentiment is shared among newer listeners. Again, if my channel can provide this, I hope that maybe you come across another artist I've covered and I'm able to build connection points of other talents I find and discover perhaps in the same time as you do. But I'm forging paths for you to discover new work if you happen to be artist shopping, trying to find some new talents to put on your phone or your headphones or whatever you want to call it. I really do hope that I can provide those routes. And METALITE, like I've said, for me has been an advantageous talent to humor, and I do hope the same is shared among new listeners. I would imagine for those of you who are familiarized with METALITE, it'll be the same sentiment reflected, at least in how I'm feeling. Maybe to different extensions. I mean, we all interpret music differently, because music is, and art generally, is a very subjective experience in terms of how it touches listeners. But I'm sure there are feelings of resonation that we would share. Let me know your thoughts down below on whatever perspective and angle you're coming from, and if you wish to disclose your perspective, what your opinions are on the piece. But easy top listen again for me. Like I've said, 11 rounds thus far that I've taken with METALITE has been a wonderful experience. The 12th is no exception. Take My Hand is quite exquisite. I really enjoyed this as a piece, and having the visualizer always adds a fun dimension to their works. Yeah, I've been a big fan, I'm sure I will continue to be. As new music comes out, whenever that is, I'm eager for it. And like I said, Take My Hand lived up to my expectations. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.